recorder, I will, thank you. I will call this meeting to order at 7:32. It's the Village of Lansing Board of Trustees meeting for January 3rd, 2022. And I will move that we open our public comment period. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Randy seconds. Okay. So all those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Okay. The public comment period is now open. We have any public willing to comment? I hear nothing, so I will move that we close the public comment period. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Simon seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand and or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right. The next item on our agenda is to approve our minutes from December 16th. Did everyone get a chance to look at those and get feedback to Jody? Okay. I will need a motion to approve the minutes, the draft minutes of December 16th. Randy moves, so I have a second. Simon seconds. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor for approving the minutes, raise your hand, say aye. You know the drill. I just have to find my camera. Okay, that's unanimous, Jody. The draft minutes are official. Okay. The big item on our agenda for tonight is to consider the Tompkins County Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is something that Mike Scott and Mayor Don Hartill and I worked on last year. We got in kind of late to the game. We didn't start along with all of the other municipalities. I think there were 2 municipalities that were late coming in. So we worked pretty hard on this. And what you saw from the county, Scott Doyle, is the culmination of all of the municipalities' work. The county did the major work on the basic hazard mitigation plan. They helped coordinate all of the county's input for the individual annexes for that document. This document is basically how do we prepare the village, in our case, our annexes, how do we prepare the village for what we consider to be the primary risks associated with the village. Mike, Don, and I came up with 3 relatively, quote, easy. I'm pulling up the document here quick. Just give me a second. 3 relatively easy targets, although the dangerous tree part of the dangerous tree risk associated with the village obviously could involve a lot of work. We do a fairly good job of monitoring those trees, but we might want to perform within the next few years to perform an inventory of dangerous trees, dangerous areas, and try to address those. That would prevent falls across power lines, potential falls into roads, trails, green spaces, and also would remove some potential tinder wood for fire outbreak. So did all of you get a chance to look at, looking for my Zoom again.
Can you hear me?
Did all of you get a chance to look at the documents, at least the village's annex?
Can you hear me, Ronnie?
Yes, Randy.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm having trouble with my computer. I've switched to the phone, so thanks.
Okay,
anyway,
yeah.
I did read it.
Okay.
I read the county thing and and then switched over and looked at ours. It's obviously extensive, very extensive.
Right. It is a requirement of FEMA that each county within the state of New York put something like this together before we ever request FEMA support on any type of emergency. So that's why it's dense. Let's just put it that way. Even the villages part is fairly dense. A lot of details in there. So it was a requirement of the county that makes it easier in case we ever have a catastrophe to get FEMA in, that they will be aware that we've done all of this work. We tried to mitigate, and it just makes that process easier. I think we just pay with pain up front rather than at the end, but it would expedite any FEMA support we would receive. Are there any other? Go ahead, Randy.
No, I think it was good. I thought it was well done and pretty much covered everything.
I think there's a lot of coverage. My concerns with it are there are no real plans on how to implement emergency response. That's supposed to be in another document, but I'm having trouble finding that document within the county's website. So I'm on an investigative journey through the county website and through their staff to try to figure out where that emergency response plan is. And once I get that, I'm going to put a link on our website. Ultimately, what I would like to do is create what's called a communications map. So that if any of us have to initiate a call to the county, that we're calling the right person at the right time and getting the fastest response. So I might call on one or two of you to help me with that map, that communications map, at least review it and see if there's anything you don't understand. So that's my goal.
Ronnie?
So are there yeah, Simon, go ahead.
Yeah. Preparing this document allow us to apply for funding to cover the costs to address some of these potential hazards like the tree trimming. How does that work? Because there's like a estimated $50,000 cost just to do the bare minimum.
Right.
Do we pay it up front? Can we apply for funding to cover that? If we don't do it and something happens and we've identified it as a possible risk, are we open to some sort of litigation?
Those are good questions. They're questions that were asked early on by people. I don't think that there's any direct link to grants or funding for the programs, but it certainly won't hurt if we can find a grant that would be applicable to any of the village's plans. I think that we can point to this document and say, this is what we're doing for FEMA. This is, so basically we're thinking about it, we're planning for it. So I think it basically helps us build a case. It would have to be translated into the language for the grants. If anyone's gone through a grant process, you know what I mean. It's got to check all the boxes and make sure that it's right the first time before it's submitted. So as far as litigation, I think that that's always a potential if we miss something. But if we do our due diligence to identify and at least produce a plan, we might not be able to implement the plan immediately, but we've got a plan to do that. I guess it would basically expand what we do normally with the DPW crew if we find anything, but there are certain areas driving through that I've seen trees down. They are on private property. So I'm wondering, Mike's not on the call on the meeting tonight, but I was going to ask him, when I get with him the next, I will ask him, is there any way that we can enforce people removing those fallen trees through code enforcement? because they present a danger of definitely a fire hazard, because they're just dry wood lying down, and a good lightning strike or a spark could set off a fire. But I don't think it would increase our litigation vulnerability any more than what we already do. It's just a guess. Natalie, do you have an opinion about that?
I would tend to agree with you, Mayor, that I don't think this increases any sort of risk of litigation, other than a village typically identifying issues that may be coming to pass. So I don't see an issue with it.
Okay, thank you.
Because this is nothing that we're not already doing, correct? Like looking at hazard trees. I guess when we talk about stormwater and installing stormwater infrastructure, that's taking care of some of the hazards that we have identified.
Right. Yes. The one thing that I would like to do is set up emergency routes through the village. It's probably already identified. It's just we need to have a way of communicating that to our residents and our neighboring municipalities, so that in case of an emergency, people can. There are certain roads that are probably the safest to travel north, south, east, west, and to identify those so people can get to locations of support during an emergency response.
I only had two other things, and that was just possible corrections to the annex. On page 1, it had the alternate point of contact as Don. Is that correct? Seeing as he had a big hand in it?
Right. That one has been changed in the later version that I received.
Okay.
I did notice in the main body of the document also that Don was still mentioned as mayor. I'll put a request in to change that. That's not anything of consequence. That will be a friendly change, and it certainly won't impact our decision tonight.
Yeah, and the only other one, again, a friendly change, was on page 3 when we listed future projects. One of them was solar home development. I didn't think that was still going ahead. The solar home development behind Dart Drive.
As far as projects, that one's probably canceled in the meantime. Yeah, we could remove that.
That were the only two things that I just noticed.
Okay. Well, that's good. Fine. That's a good find, Simon. I jumped right over that.
Also in that section, the beers should be changed from future to they're going on now. And also there is under section 9.14.73, it says air reference source not found. Is that something that you need to do before you submit this?
I noticed that too. I don't know if that's something on their side. I have no idea. I was going to when we send the comments back, I was going to say, we don't know what this means. I think it's probably a field within the document that picks up information from another source within the document, and it can't find that field. Either we didn't fill it out, or there's an odd character that it doesn't understand. I've seen it before within Word, but I don't know what system they are using to create the ultimate document. But I did spot that one.
There's a couple places where there's question marks in there. I don't know if we have to deal with them or if they've been removed, or like on page 6 as a question mark before Board of Trustees in the chart at the top right.
Let me find the document here. (914-4).
6.
Oh, 6, sorry. 6.
Under department agency responsibility, it has question mark Board of Trustees. Second block down.
Oh, I see. I think that probably was a question mark, and we typed in the information and it just didn't overwrite the question mark. But because we would ultimately be responsible for any this law as Board of Trustees. I think that that's probably okay. I don't know if this will let me mark that.
And then on page 13, it says, are there any risk map projects currently underway in your jurisdiction? We stated yes, and it says you're supposed to state what projects are underway, and there's nothing stated.
Okay. I'm
Risk
looking.
management, I mean, you want to put something there, we can figure something out if you think you need something there.
Well, it says, we answered it yes, and it says, if so, state what projects are underway. So we just did not complete that.
Okay. 16.
13.
Oh, so sorry.
We could put that we continually evaluate the road infrastructure for defects and trees along the roadway or something, if you want to, because we're constantly checking roads.
Might say which question again, Jody? I'm having trouble finding where you are.
It's table 9.14-5, the floodplain administrator questionnaire. And it is the third one down.
Okay.
Are any risk map projects currently underway in your jurisdiction? And we put yes. And then it says, if so, state what projects are underway.
Nine 914-5. I'm not seeing this.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Say it
on-
again then.
The table is 9.14-10. It's
Oh.
on page 13.
Okay. I was looking at the table -5. Okay. I see it. All right. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Risk projects currently. So, but we do we have any risk map projects specifically?
Says yes. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but I can't think of any risk map that we currently have. So
Does that
I'm
need
going
to
to,
be changed to no?
yeah, let me put a comment in here.
Would it be the sewer project on East Shore Drive?
I think a risk map would be, well, it's possible. I'm just going to say, ask Mike Scott about this. Okay. And I'm just going to save this. Okay. I've got a comment in to ask Mike about that one.
Okay, then on that.
All right,
same
thank you.
Under that same page, under resources, it says who is responsible. It says COE, and that should be CEO, Code Enforcement Officer. Typo, yeah.
Okay.
Then you get to table 9.14-13, temporary housing. It's on page 15.
Right. I'm there.
They have Clarion Inn that needs to be changed to Cayuga Blue. And I didn't know if they want to include the Trip Hotel or not. Because it seems that you're listing all the hotels in the village.
Yes, I just don't know about Trip Hotel. I think this time I think I would like to leave it off just because I don't know what state it's in.
So Clarion Inn has to be changed to Cayuga Blue.
I made a note of that. Yeah, that name has changed since we made the first pass on this, or actually the third or fourth pass. Okay,
Do I recall that the census data that we just received was not in there? It was the data from a couple years ago?
I have not received any new census data. I don't know
I
if
thought-
anybody else has.
I thought we looked at something last month. Somebody sent us something. And it was like 73% apartment. 73% of the residents were apartment, which shocked me.
it is high. Yeah, but that seems high.
I don't know. Let me see if I can see where it came in. All right, go ahead. If I find that, I'll forward it to you.
Okay. All right. Did you find anything else, Jody?
Other than the other things we already talked about.
No. Okay.
And we just have to remember, because you're saying here that once we update the comprehensive plan, that this is going to be incorporated. So you have to remember whoever's on that committee that takes this document also.
Yeah, we would
There's a lot
probably.
of things that we're probably not going to do, but
We would probably refer to the overall document and our annex just by title rather than incorporate the words within the document, because we have the ability to change our annex at any time if we make progress toward our goals, and just to help track it. So it would be best we would do with what we would do within the comprehensive plan, just refer to the overall hazard mitigation plan and the annex for the village of Lansing. And just say that both documents are living documents and that they can be found at link. Okay. Jody, those are all good finds. Thank you for your help. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay.
Should we make a motion to?
Yeah, I was just about to say, then we need to move and second a discussion and vote on the resolution to accept this document.
Based on the corrections or updates, I guess.
Right. We can say to include our findings in review of the document. They are not significant, and since we own that part of the document, I think that they will be fine. The one that we were not sure where it says yes, but there's no information provided. That's the only one that concerns me. I want to get details there. It's either a no or a yes plus details, and I'll get that from Mike. And I will let Scott Doyle know that we approved the overall document, but we did have some minor changes, and that those would be forthcoming. I don't see that that's a problem.
And I would make a motion that we approve it based on those updates that we just discussed.
Okay. Do I have a second? Simon seconds. Is there any further discussion on the resolution that Jody sent us?
in the resolution, it says seeker action. Do we need to do a seeker on this?
No, I don't think that there is a seeker action. That one threw me. I think if it might be a cut and paste problem. But I'll check with Scott and say that there was a question about that. We didn't have a problem with the resolution, but that at the end, we weren't sure what it was. I didn't make sense of it either. So I will ask him about that. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of passing the resolution to accept the hazard mitigation plan and the village's annex, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Jody. Thank you all. And as progress begins on our goals and we make progress in the document or the changes in the document, I will try to keep us informed. It might be Mike because he's as involved in this as I am. And John, obviously, you could be involved in some of the implementations. So we will keep you apprised of everything we're agreeing to do. So you can tell us if we're going the right direction, things that you can or cannot do. Okay, thanks everyone. And speaking of John, did everyone see John's email today about the potential changes to road resurfacing for the St. Joseph and Watapka project?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess we don't really need to have a vote to discuss it, but we do need to discuss it with John. John also sent us just before the meeting, sent us an email with the costs broken down. Did everyone see that?
I did not read it. I saw it came in, but I didn't get a chance to read it.
I apologize for that late deal. I couldn't get stuff together in time.
Yeah, I didn't read it either, so I'm sorry, John.
Jody, I can share that if you would like, or do you have it so that you could share it?
No, I have not seen it. The one thing that I just wanted to say was basically what you need to do is give him a yes or no on whether you want him to do this project.
Right.
And as far as transferring money for it, we don't really know what the costs are yet. So, I mean, we can tentatively say what our plan is, but we will not do a formal budget transfer until we know more.
No more, the exact costs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, John estimated some costs for us. Jody, if you would give me the permission, I will share my screen and we can look at those.
While you're doing that, I found the stuff about the 2020 census, and it was all based on a Tompkins County 2020 housing snapshot, which Jody sent to us, and it was about housing. But within that, it talks about the census information for Tompkins County in 2020. So.
Oh, interesting. I don't remember it. But thanks, Randy. Then I will look for that too and read through it again.
Yeah, I don't know if like the village of, where'd we go? Village of Lansing, 2020 populations, 36,000. I'm sorry, it's got the
3,600.
wrong place, 3648. I don't know if that's reflected in the new data or not, or, in that update that we talked about a minute ago.
Usually at the village, they send me, once the census is all complete, they send me a total summary of what happens, and I haven't received anything like that.
That's interesting. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
a population increase of 119 people. So forth and so on. Oh, well, that's okay.
Okay. It's probably a preliminary estimate or preliminary number, but I'm not sure the census has been formally released yet, but it's probably pretty close from our standpoint, from everything I've read. That would be, we increased just a little bit. Okay, can everyone see the screen now with John's, this is a preliminary estimate just pulled out of the air, just an idea of what we're talking about. And John, I'll let you speak to these.
Thank you. In 19 and 20, we had budgeted money for Highgate or St. Joe's. We finally completed Highgate last spring, and we just never got around to do this St. Joe's Watapka. The system down through there basically conveys the water from Lansing Trails 1 and 2 to the area of Trip Hammer Road using the St. Joe's Watapka as the corridor. We would like to put that in. It's constantly wet in the yards, and by doing so, we'd be able to accomplish a couple things. We could widen the road, install the mailboxes on one side of the road instead of both sides, and then possibly put some streetlights in there. We've had the petition in the past to put the streetlights in there. Everybody's familiar with that. I think the lady's name was Olga, that was the main contact person of that. It's the corridor is really narrow, and it is basically a dark. Like it also conveys the pedestrian too, from like Lansing Trails 1 and 2, some even up in as far as Bomax. They have a lighted way all the way down through Norway and everywhere. Once they get down to the trail on Vatop, or from Janovar to Vatopka, then that's a dark stretch through there, and then it gets light again. So I mean, there's some good benefits to this. The numbers are up from normal just because of this COVID thing. And this is a project that it doesn't put us in close contact, because most of it's going to be in equipment per se. And it's not cold sensitive, not like laying concrete for sidewalks and stuff like that. So it's something we could do, and we could shut down at any time. If we get 2 weeks of snow, we can shut it down. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up. So it's kind of like it's just a good winter project that I feel that we could have most of it done by spring and not affect our normal work.
When you say start at the bottom, that would be at the trip hammer end?
Well, yeah, it'd be
Or-
down at the cul-de-sac. I
Okay.
don't, I can't remember the gentleman's name down there. But
Diver?
yeah, down by the Colonial Vets
Mhm.
area.
Yeah.
I think this should be a warm reception from the people at the end of the day, because the ditches are really super deep and there's not much shoulder. Once you get off the macadam, you're right there. Basically, it's a suicide lane in and out, because when you're plowing that road, you can't get too close to the edge, because that's when you start breaking off the edge. So you basically got to drive the plow truck with a wing down, break down through the middle of the road, turn around, and then back out the middle of the road. And with the mailboxes there, it looks like 20 hourglasses when you go down through there in the winter. And I think we could really clean it up and make it a good area. Not saying it isn't.
So right now, John, there's ditches on both sides of the road. What side would the storm go on now?
My intention is there's 2,600 feet of storm, and that's why it seems like a lot, but there's about 350 feet on each side of Vatopka. And then there's about 1,000 feet on each side of St. Joe's. The south side is basically the heavy flow side. That one has continuous flow. It's not a stream, or not classified as any stream, but the south side gets the majority of the flow. And there's a lot of failing driveway culverts down through there too. So that would just clean a lot of them up.
I wanted
And
to
so
ask
this-
about reception. So typically, if you were going to do a project like this, especially with putting up the lights, I think, do you typically, or does the village typically send out some kind of notification? Because I would hate to find out that it was not well received after doing the work. I mean, sometimes we do things because they need to be done, but sometimes, we may survey the populace to see what their opinion is. Is this the kind of thing that typically they would be surveyed or would not?
We don't typically survey them. We only take the need, and this definitely needs some kind of storm sewer work infrastructure down through there. We're constantly, every year, my lawn is wet. What can you do to fix my lawn? It's chronic down through there. So that's what we do. We assess it then, and then we throw it into the budget. I don't think I've ever done a project we always give a letter of intent prior to the start date. In the 17 years or whatever I've been here at the village, I've never ever come across a project that we have done that we didn't get a warm reception to. So I don't know how to handle that, because you get that 1 or 2 people in the middle of the project that don't want that work done. I know it's good to hear their voice and everything, and we want transparency, but sometimes the need supersedes their wants. So I don't know how to really answer that question.
No, that is a very satisfactory answer. That's the information, because I am still new and I did not know that.
Thank you.
I think it'll be fairly well received. The gentleman at, I think, Diver that you mentioned before, who's down the end,
Diver. Yep.
stack, number 30, he spoke to me a while back about stormwater issues. So I think, well, certainly he'd be receptive to doing this. But then also, John, just another quick question. So there's two places there where the stormwater, the drains go under the road. So I think it's right at the intersection of Vitapka and St. Joe's, and then again right down by number 30. So would they get pulled up underneath the road and replaced?
I will investigate them. My intentions were no until I get down and start really looking them over. But those are 24-inch cross pipes and they do handle a lot of water. So we definitely want to look at them. They're corrugated metal pipe right now, which has a life expectancy from 10 to 30 years, depends on the acidic soils. So HDPE pipe, plastic polyethylene pipe, they say it's 500 years, but nobody's really studied it well enough to figure that it's ever going to happen. But plastic's pretty much around forever. So we do have a high acidic soils in there, and that's what happened to the storm pipe. Even that was aluminized coated pipe, and that one failed. Probably about 30 years was the failure rate on that one. So that was rated its life expectancy on Graham Road, the one we did this year. And so I mean, you know, if go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry, the plan would be to pull the funds out of one of the other projects that isn't going ahead, like Oakrest or Dart. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the only reason why I was going to pull it from that fund is because if we're doing the sanitary sewer work and they're going to use that as a construction corridor, we want that road to be exercised in that fashion before we put a nice finish on it, and then have it used as a travel corridor before the for the construction on that project. So we want that to basically be the beat up road. We don't want to do a facelift on it now. So that my intention is to throw it right back in the 22-23 budget, that funding.
And we already had
It's at that
30, we had 30K budgeted in the current budget cycle for Vitapka and St. Joe's, right? So you'd be looking at pulling out whatever that is, 120, 160.
Yeah, I think I had that 146.4 on Oakcrest Road and divvying it up between the streetlight storm and the shoulder widening. And just use that 30 there as you need it to resurface the road when that's all done. You know, after you do all that infrastructure work, then you come back and put the road facelift on that.
How many catch basins do you think that will require, John?
There's I figured 22. I wasn't really going to put this to hardcore engineering. I was going to try to save some money on that. I'm going to have them look at the watersheds though, because I had 52,000 for the storm sewer, and that was just going by what's existing there. Once we pull the watersheds down on it, we might be able to downsize the northern storm system corridor on the north side of the road. We might be able to take that down to 15-inch, which I had 18 in my budget. If we can take that down to 15, we can trim some more money there. But there's approximately, I had 22 catch basins. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that live on that road. It's hard to believe. I had 12 2x2x3 catch basins on the north quadrant, and then the south side I had 10. Each intersecting above each driveway gets a drop-in a catch basin, and then intersecting pipes like Simon made point to. There's a couple cross pipes in that road. You have to tie those in with some form of structure to allow the water to get to those points and drop down.
Okay.
The road is failing too on Vitapka. I didn't want to bring that up right now, but once we started ditching that, we noticed there was a lot of substrate water, and that's when we kind of knew we just ditched it this fall. There was one guy that didn't want us to ditch on his property, and he got a hold of Mike, and he was just really steadfast that he didn't want us to touch his property. But I bet you right now I can sell him storm sewer in a minute if he can mow his lawn to the edge of the road.
Well, it sounds like at least that person should be contacted to let them know and explain to them. I guess another question is flew right out of my head. so you're thinking that you can get this done in the winter. Will your work typically disrupt driveways?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you will have to, obviously, if you have to stop work, you need to at least allow the current driveway that's being impacted to be passable before you drop the work, correct?
Oh, absolutely. We basically did from 4 to 38 on Highgate, which is a ton of driveways. We're always in personal contact with the people. And once we pull that driveway out, it's going to be gravel for that day. And then we'll eventually put cold patch in there just to get the rest of the winter. Our cold patch has been proven. We use it up on Warren Road where there's several thousand cars a day that travel that road, and the cold patch will stay. Then they'll be able to plow it. So there might be not as smooth as before, but then in the spring we'll turn it right back to existing. We've done so many of these projects. This is just like second nature for us now.
Okay. Well, will you use that as training also for Nick?
Oh, absolutely.
Break in. Okay.
He did. I would just like to give a report on him real quick. He's really done well. We sent him out on one little project. Or actually we was plowing some roads, and I know we had a lot of snow, but we had a couple inches here and there, and the plow bolt broke and it bent the plow frame, and it was nobody's fault. It's just fatigue. And he come back, he called me. I said, "Do you think you can fix it?" And he fixed it. He torched it, he heated it back up, bent it back in place, and welded it and put it back to in working order within a half an hour. He really impressed me. It was really impressive. So I was really particularly happy with that. And he's managed to deal with the ice that we've had on the sidewalks. So everything's working out really good there. And he passed his commercial driver's permit test, which is quite an accomplishment nowadays.
Okay. That's great, John.
So
one final question. Will you, before you start this project, will you at least have an informal discussion with Don Partner to see if there's anything that you're not aware of that he might point to? Well, don't forget about this. Will you do that also?
Oh, I was on the phone with him tonight about it, and he might have some old maps up on it. So absolutely. I use him for little stuff like this. We save a ton of money by a field engineering a lot of ourselves, and he just does some of the background engineering for us. And it's how we've done Highgate. We didn't have to go through full blown bid type plans. We saved a lot of money that way too. But I use him lightly behind the scenes on this. Absolutely. It's always good to get a second opinion on this stuff.
Okay. I suspected it. I just, I wasn't sure. That's why I asked. Okay, trustees, let us know what you think about this. Yes or no to proceed with this project. Potential transfer of funds into this project to get it done over the winter.
I'm good with it. It looks like straight swap from Oakcrest over to this project because we had this exact amount budgeted for Oakcrest. So we can just move it over to this one.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Pat?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Randy?
I'm fine with it also.
Carolyn?
Same.
Same with me. John, you're a go.
Okay, thank you. And could I borrow 2 more minutes of your time on an issue that we have with Pizza Hut?
Sure. Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
On a few weeks ago, we got contacted by Nancy Metzger or something like that, and she's trying to sell. I think the cat's out of the bag now. Elmira Savings Bank is trying to buy Pizza Hut and move a bank in there.
Okay.
But truth be known, Elmira just got bought out by Community Bank, so it just kind of muddied the water a little bit. But our easement protrudes a few inches into the side of their building for our sanitary sewer. And I've been on the horn with Peter, and we can't. They're not accepting just, okay, we're not going to make you tear your building down over a few inch encroachment into the easement. We have no need for it. but we can't gift the property back to them because we can't gift real estate. We can sell it to them. That's the next best, that's the first best option. The next best option is a license agreement. And Peter concocted a license agreement, and it's pretty lengthy. And at the end of the day, since they've created a problem when that building was created into the encroachment of the easement, they want some kind of agreement. They just don't want to take our handshake agreement. They want some kind of agreement. And basically, Peter has created this agreement, and we want to pass it off to them. And it's a lengthy agreement. And basically, we can put a price in that agreement to recoup our costs, the attorney's costs and filing fees and everything that goes into that. Right now, Peter had $300 in there as a fee. If they get into the tiff to going back and forth a lot because they don't like the language in there, that's obviously going to increase that fee.
Increase the price.
Yeah, it's increased that price.
Of course.
One of the things that he said, I was a little concerned on some of the language in there, that we could basically break that building open at any time if we felt the impact that we needed to get in there to work on the sewer. And I said, I don't think a bank is going to want that agreement in there that we could just take the corner of their building up and expose that entrance. So, he said, well, it is what it is. And basically, so the only thing he could do to make them feel secure about things is he can extend the termination of the license to 24 months, because on a license, the village can terminate that license at any time, whatever's in the language. And so he said, if we put that in there 24 months, it might make them feel better. The village is never going to terminate this license. He says it would never happen. Well, we got to have something in writing in case there ever was a need to. So, does anyone have any questions? And I'm trying to explain it the best I can. Natalie, did I miss
Yeah, I
anything?
think you did great. No, I think that was a good recitation of what it says. Peter gave me a rundown before the meeting, because I know he's been going back and forth with you on it. Yeah, basically, that's exactly what the agreement says.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I thought that entire property there was owned by somebody, whoever owns that mall that rents all that space out. And so the village has owned some property there where the Pizza Hut is?
Those properties are subdivided. The mall is owned by a different person. The Pizza Hut's owned by Nancy, and I can't remember his name. And then the Econo Lodge is owned by somebody else, and the muffler shop, Monroe Muffler Shop. There's like 4 parcels there besides Friendly's. Friendly's, I think, is on their own parcel as well.
John, we're absolutely certain that their encroachment will not prevent us from doing future work, even if we have to increase the size of that sewer or stormwater.
It's a 30-foot easement. Well, and if I could just show you the map real quick, that might help you show you what's. It just take me a second to pull it up. I can't remember if I sent it to you guys or not, but I'll. It's really small, and yeah, I'm gonna open and share my screen here. I found it. Okay, this is literally what it consists of right here. I mean, like inches. And Mike Scott and I are like, why would they make a big mountain out of a molehill? If all that would ever happen was the survey team would have never put those limits of easement lines on there, the attorneys would have never made a fuss about it. But here's a sanitary line through here. That literally inches right there is what comes into that. If they hadn't have put these dash marks on, because normally they're not, they just put the way the easements are written on this, it's 30-foot easement centered on the sanitary sewer main. So it's 15 feet on each side. Once they put these dash marks on there, the attorneys caught it, hook, line, and sinker. They want some kind of an agreement now. To me, it's nothing. We'll never, ever do anything in that area there. I think they're making a mountain out of a molehill with this.
So what
Well,
happens?
that's their job.
What's that, Randy?
What happens if we just say no? I guess that's for
We can
Natalie.
say no. I mean, that's absolutely one of your entitlements, and that's why I'm bringing it to you. You can say no, and the sale won't go through. I don't think we want that. I really don't. I think we want every sale we can get in the village. That's
So
just my thought.
do you know if the bank, whatever it's going to be named, would use the existing building?
Yes, they're every intent to use the existing building, and with
Okay.
that license agreement, basically, in the one license agreement we had, Peter didn't really like it, was if they ever made a structural improvement to that corner, it would be relocated. It had to be removed out of the easement.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because if they ever
Peter
do.
wasn't real happy with that one.
Okay.
So we come up with a more complex one.
Okay. Okay.
He did.
All right.
I did. We had a similar occurrence with this years ago with One Highgate Circle is where this they put their deck in our sewer line. And I think this document was originally created by David DeBow at
Okay.
One Highgate. So without knowing it, one day we were out doing sewer work and we looked up and there was a deck post right next to our sewer main.
Okay.
Flag up, and they hadn't gotten their C of O yet, so that's when we caught it. And this this document originally got created many
Okay.
moons ago.
Okay. So did you use that as a template for this
Yeah.
document? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes
You would
sense.
be the signature on that document with a board resolution too, when we get the things hashed up. I figure
Of
we're 3
course.
weeks out, so I don't think we
Okay.
have to worry about anything with that yet. We're gonna set, if I get your blessing, I'll send it off to Pizza Hut and their attorney for Elmira Savings Bank to review. And then if they got a lot of changes, that's when we start tallying the money up on what we're gonna charge them for the document.
Okay.
If you don't want anything to do with it, you just tell me no, I'll just chuck it in the garbage.
I'll let the other trustees speak first. Simon, what do you think?
Yeah, if you're happy with it, John, and as long as we get compensated for all of the legal time, so if this takes a while, $300 ain't gonna cut it. But yeah, if you're happy with it and we get compensated, fine with that.
Carolyn?
Yeah, I'd like to see the sale happen. I agree with that.
Randy?
I'm good.
And Pat?
Yes, I agree with everyone else. I'd like to see the sale, and I also agree with Simon. If we can get compensated, I'd say go ahead.
Right. And I agree, John. Just let them know up front that the longer they stretch this out through our attorneys, that the more it's going to cost them. So,
Okay, the only thing I'm gonna have Peter do, if I can edit that document, is basically take that 300 out and put to be determined, TBD,
Yeah.
to be determined. So the more you play cat and mouse with us, the higher that number goes up.
yeah, I'm sure that Natalie and Peter can come up with a way of putting the proper words in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I agree. I don't want a zombie property there. I want something that's contributing to our community, and a bank is a good probably a good local business citizen. So I agree. So as
Thank
far
you.
as I'm concerned, we don't really need to vote on this. So I guess we will have to vote on the final agreement, of course, but it sounds good.
Thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can
Hey,
I
John.
ask you a question, John, before you leave? Actually,
Sure.
I was thinking about two issues that are John related. So you guys might already know the answers to both of these, and maybe John doesn't have to say anything, but I was thinking about the fact that a couple of years ago, Don said that before he left the office, one of the things he wanted to accomplish was the intersection of East Shore Drive and Kega Heights Road and turn that into some kind of a T. And obviously it didn't happen before he left, but I was wondering about that. And then concurrently also, I was wondering about the sewer line installation and possibly installing sidewalks at the same time. And I was wondering, the Board of Trustees maybe discussed this before I came on, but those two issues I was just thinking about and wanted to know if other people were thinking about them still.
All right, can I ask you just a follow up to that one? What are you're thinking sidewalks along Kega Heights Road? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I've always been thinking about that.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking, since the sewer's going in, is now the best time, and have we talked about, has the board talked about that before I came on and dismissed it or wanted to pursue it? And then also I remember Don I was driving up the road the other day and I was remembering how that was a goal of Don's. So he must have pursued it to at least some end. And I was wondering what happened there.
We had a small design to bring the intersection back to Burdick Hill. That was one of the designs that come above Secord's property. And then we were talking to the state when we first started this dialogue about the sewer expansion project. And there's some funding programs that I think we need to maybe, I don't say we dropped the ball, we forgot to carry out with that. And we have to get Ronnie probably involved and have him tweak some people at the state level to, there's intersection improvement funds. And then obviously you need to get the landowners agreement on the conveyance of lands, giving us the land to be able to have the room to do that. So there was a lot of dialogue about that, Carolyn, and we didn't forget about it. It just, till we keep bringing the wheel up again, we don't ever know what to do sometimes. So I think I'll try to get with Ronnie sometime and bring him up to speed on that, and get with the engineers and see if they've made any designs to that, because there was talk to try to incorporate that into the sewer expansion project. So hopefully that answers things.
I don't remember any discussion about sidewalks, Carolyn. If it happened, it didn't happen. It might have been within some of the engineering talks that were offline outside of public view, but I didn't hear of anything. But I know that the Village of Kega Heights recently got a grant to put in a new sidewalk. So we might be able to look at that. If not during the construction, afterward, we might look at it.
I was just wondering if it gets constructed in a slightly different way, if we have a future plan for sidewalks, or if there's a big savings, if we have a concurrent plan for sidewalks.
That I can't say.
I can ask if there's something that can be just a quick number put together on something like that. I mean, if that's what you guys want me to do, if you tell me no, I won't waste anybody's time, but I can just ask the engineers, what do you think about that? It's just, and they might say, well, we're doing the sewer there, the subgrades. If we put the subgrades in, we might save money down the road because we got to do it anyway, as part of the project. There's might be tricks and trades to cover some of them costs in there,
Yeah, please, I think at least ask, right?
Yeah.
People agree with that? I mean, at least ask, because I do think that it is, if we want to be a walkable village, that's one of the most crucial places to have sidewalks. Everyone jogs along there. So I think that would be a great improvement if we either do it concurrently or after. So yeah, let's at least find out numbers.
We got kind of shredded apart with our DEC review on that project. I think Ronnie saw that email. There was a lot of questions and hangups. So hopefully we can work through them. And real quick, Wednesday, I have a Zoom meeting with Cornell and Peter to discuss the easements that we don't have for the water line on Brown Road. So apparently there was an easement created in 1974 with the town of Lansing and and some developer, and nothing ever got filed or anything like that. So we don't have any easements for our water lines. We just have a right to be there by use. So we want to get a document created to incorporate, just clean things up there. That's all we want to do is clean things up. So I'll get on that. I'll make a note on that, Carolyn, and we'll see what we can do.
John, I plan to join that meeting. I'll be coming in only partially knowledgeable about the subject, so I'll be dangerous. So I might not ask any questions because it could open up a big can of worms, but I at least want to hear the discussion.
Well, I think it'd be good if you, we're gonna log in a half hour before that time, and we're gonna start some dialogue and fill Peter in with what we're thinking and trying to clean easements up and familiarize everybody on what we're doing. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to sister the two water mains together instead of have them spread 50, 60 feet apart.
Right.
And by sistering them together, we have a lot less destruction of property, trees,
Correct.
roadway, curbing, everything like that.
Okay.
8:30, that is, on Wednesday.
8:30. Okay. I will be up. Whether I'm awake or not is another question, but so what do the other trustees think about that? Asking questions about putting in a potential sidewalk on Cayuga Heights Road.
Doesn't
This-
ask,
this-
I think go ahead and ask.
I'm sorry, Simon, say it again. You were breaking up.
It doesn't hurt to ask, so I think just go ahead and ask, see what the cost
Okay.
would be.
Okay. Randy?
I just recall the Don Hartel conversation was that Hugo Heights got some kind of a loan,
Right.
right? But
Mhm.
after it was all done, it was like they had to fund 90% of it.
Yeah.
And the state was going to give them 10. And so Don just felt like it wasn't viable because of the
Wasn't worth it. That's,
Yeah.
that's definitely a possibility.
But, John should ask.
That was more to put in sidewalks. It wasn't so much as, my question was more, if we ever want to
Co-location.
put on sidewalks, is there something that we should think about while we're digging? It's, it's similar, but it's slightly different.
Is there something we can do as we're laying in this new pipe that would help future installation of a sidewalk much easier? Yeah, I agree. Pat, what do you think?
I'm going back, it's coming back to me. We did have a discussion. I agree with Randy, actually. It was brought up when Cayuga Heights was supposed to get this grant. I don't know whether they did or not, but it was expense more than anything. But I don't see any harm in John asking and see what, have another look at it. I think it was mainly expense on it would cost the village a lot, if I remember, but it should be in the minutes, right, Jody, somewhere?
Probably.
It was some time ago.
Yeah, it was. It's a couple of years at least.
So-
And I agree, John. Let's ask about some potential numbers. And we can, I know that the state at some point is probably going to start looking at making municipalities more walkable. So perhaps we can find a grant in the future that would help with a larger portion of that installation. So it won't hurt to start looking for it.
So one of the things that Lisa has suggested many times is that she loves the way the village does road repair, which is you have a project, an annual budget, and then you do a small bit and you always stay on top of it, and then that saves expenses. Now it's a little different with sidewalks because we don't currently have the expenses, we don't have them. But she does have this dream for the village that we have a program of picking the places that the sidewalk committee has deemed, necessary, and then just doing, okay, we're going to do this many miles per year, like one. And then slowly we'll build the bulk of the village that we want in 20 years.
Right.
So if we were to do that, this would be, maybe it's not place number 1, but maybe it's place number 5. And so I just don't want to miss any opportunities of like, oh, if we had just done this size gravel instead of that size gravel or whatever. Like, I just want
Sure.
to see if there are any of those small
Yeah.
things in the idea that someday this will be a good idea for the village.
No,
That's all. I just
no.
don't want to make a mistake. in the construction that we would have had cost savings in the future.
Okay. All right. No, it's a good point, Carolyn. Thank you for bringing it up. And I agree. I think we should go for it. Obviously, being chair of the Greenway Committee, that's something that we have considered too. We would really like to see more sidewalks. We're going to approach the point, though, where we are using our DPW crews to keep those sidewalks walkable during the winter, especially. So at some point, if we add enough sidewalks, we may have to add another DPW person. So we'll have to take all of that into consideration too.
And additional equipment.
Additional equipment too. But the equipment is the minor cost. The personnel is the major cost.
Yep.
So it's something for us all to think about. And John, obviously, this is something that to put on your list of things to think about as we go forward with any project is future sidewalks. And how can we prepare them for a sidewalk during construction of other parts of the infrastructure. So keep that in mind.
That's definitely part of my thought on the St. Joseph's too, is like Carolyn said, you put enough substrates in there correctly placed, and down the road, if you want to, and you make a note on the as-built when you get done, then when you want to do this, if there ever comes a day that you do the sidewalk, it's a lot less cost to get that completed.
Okay. All right.
Anybody have any more questions? I think I want to go home now, and I'm going to get up early in the morning. By looks, it was snowing out here a minute ago, so
Okay.
I don't think we're supposed to get any. So
I don't have anything else. That's sure.
Thank you all. Have a good night. Thank you.
Drive
Night.
safe. Take care. Getting back to my agenda here. Okay, so the next topic for tonight is mayor's comments. The only comments I have are, I'm sure that you probably saw my email in response to John that Deborah and I traveled to Louisville, Colorado for our holiday visit with our kids and grandkids. And a day after we left, they experienced a Marshall fire that was blowing through those communities with 100-mile-per-hour wind. Everything, our kids and grandkids, they didn't lose their house, but it stopped like 5 blocks away from them. It was pretty bad. Our son-in-law, we spoke with them last night. They're back in their home. They said that the fire department couldn't even turn their hoses on residents or businesses until 10 o'clock that night. That was almost 11 hours after the fire started, because the wind was so high that as soon as the water came out of the hose, it just turned into mist. So they could not direct it in any direction to make it effective against the fire. So the fires just burned free for those 11 hours. And the destruction there, if you haven't seen the pictures, is pretty terrific, horrific. So Deborah and I were thinking on our drive back, and we started the process of trying to figure out what would Tompkins County do, and from the village standpoint, what would the village's part be, and something that was that major for our communities here. I'm paying attention to some of the Denver news sites just to see how they're dealing with it. And for instance, one thing they did is they have one central emergency support center where people the victims who lost their homes and or their businesses can go into this one facility, work with staff there to start the process of getting all of their private state and federal insurance programs kicked off so that they coordinate their money and they know what's happening. And it's like the navigators who help people go through this process. it's just mind boggling. If you think about it, if this area, if we were within a 2 or 3 year drought system with all of our trees and the deadwood, as we talked about earlier tonight, if that ever caught fire and we had 50 or 60 mile an hour wind, which we have had recently in the past year, we would go through something very similar. Grass fires are more furious than a standard tree fire because they move so fast. Grass fire will move at almost the same speed as the wind speed. So grass fire there was spreading close to 100 miles per hour in many directions. So ours would not be that fast, but with potential deadwood and undergrowth that's dry and crispy, we could go through something similar. So we're trying to locate, I'm trying to build a communications map for us for contact into the county. And the county, I know, has contacts into the state and national. So I want us to be prepared. The places that were burning, we had been through a couple of days before. We had visited many of the businesses, the shopping strips, even one of the malls where this fire went through. We had stayed at one of the hotels 2 years ago that burned to the ground. It was a brand new hotel. It was basically all green. It was a resilient structure, but fast moving fire that couldn't be put out, burned it into ashes on the ground. So those are my only comments tonight, except on a bright note, I certainly want to wish you all a happy new year. I hope this year is better for all of us. And those are all of my comments. So the comments from anyone else? Pat, are you raising your hand or just adjusting?
I have no comment, except I was going to say Happy New Year to everyone.
Okay. All right. And Natalie, congratulations on your new firm. Let us know how that goes. Sometimes those transitions can be fraught. I know.
Well, first day was a little rough, but we'll get there.
Okay. That's always true. Always true. But if there's nothing else, I guess that we can move and vote to adjourn. I'll move. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Pat seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
All right.
Aye. It looks like it's unanimous, except we couldn't see Randy's hand, but I think I heard him there. All right. Thanks everyone for a good meeting tonight.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you, Jody.